Hi, welcome back to Tony's Top Tips Workshop. This is another, dare I say, video on the Genmitsu 4th axis for the 4040 Pro CNC. I've done a video previous explaining it, just working basics with the offline controller. But once again, I've realised that there's one or two not faults, sort of problems that should have been sorted from manufacture, really. Not manufacture, but as a software issue. The first one that I discovered with the 4th axis was the fact that I use a Vectrix VCarve Pro, and I use Aspire, and I use Aspire more than VCarve Pro. But as you well know, people that operate CNCs, you need, obviously, once you've generated the G code for it in the design software, you need to submit it to a post processor, which that interprets the G code for the machine that you're using. And of course, I went on Sainsmart's website, and there is for VCarve post process to sort of downloaded it, and I will go through. I'm going to show you a bit of a video on just basically how to put it into the post process into VCarve or Aspire. It's pretty simple to do. It comes down as a file, and then you just open the software up, and then go to the required file, and then you install the post processor. Come back out of the program, software program, open the software program back up, and your post processor will be there. However, on trying to install the post processor, I kept getting a fault come up. I could install it, but then when I came to open the software up, the software would not respond. And then eventually, when it did somewhat respond, it came up with an error, and it kept coming up with an error on VCarve Pro or Aspire. It kept coming up, line 70 revision, fault revision, or error revision. So, and this is what annoys me. It kept coming up. Now I know how to install post processors. It isn't that. So I thought there's something wrong with the file that I've downloaded. So I tried and better tried again, and eventually I opened the in WordPad, just opened the file up that was post processor file, and lo and behold, line 70 is the word revision. So I thought, well, I'm in it now, I'm going to have to try. So obviously I had the original post processor file, and what I did was I deleted the line completely, line 70, shut it down, the file, closed it, and then went back into Aspire, opened up the data file that I needed to put the post processor in, and installed the post processor, shut the software down, open the software up, and lo and behold, it runs. Now I've notified Sainsmart on this, and their support, and to be fair to them, they answer every time. And I told them the fault that I had, and also another fault that occurred was once I got that up and running excuse me, once I got the software up and running, and I knew that it would actually do a toolpath, and then post processor, and then onto the SD card, and then I could pop it in the offline controller and then operate from there, because that's what I wanted to do. operate the machine with the offline controller. Wasn't connected to the PC at all. So lo and behold, it worked, and I thought, right, I'll do a bit of V-carving, engraving, so to speak. Well, to check anything out, I always do a letter that's not, because some letters, if you capitals especially, if you do a letter T, it doesn't matter which way around it is, so to speak, it'll show the right way. So I do a handed, and one of the good letters that I use to see what it comes out right is letter 4. So I just did a letter 4 in the software program, converted it with the toolpath, put it on the chip, put it in the offline controller, and say going. Set all my which I've done. I'm going to do a video. I'll take you down to the shop and show you it actually working and what I did for zeroing and all that. It's pretty simple really. And then I obviously set the machine running, and I soon realised that it was engraving rather, the letter 4 handed upside down. And I looked at this and I thought, this can't be right. It isn't this. You can flip it in the actual design software, but you shouldn't have to do that. I'm doing it the right hand, the chuck on the left, and it should be what you see is what you get, I always say. But that wasn't the case. What I was receiving was an upside down number, and I shouldn't have to flip anything in the software, because when you do that you see it flipped, and to reference it all then it's just too much work. And I thought no. So I emailed in the same, when I notified them about the fault for the post processor, I emailed them, can you reverse the direction of the rotary chuck? I tried all ends up and going into the G code for the post processor and all this lot, and it was like brain my head against that desk. So I thought no, so I'll wait for a reply. Anyway, I was down in the workshop the other day and I thought no, I hadn't had a reply, but 2 days had gone since I notified them. They said they were looking into it and that, and could I explain to them what I did in order to get the post processor to work and install. And I thought, well, I shouldn't have to do that. This should have been put out at first. So I told them, I did oblige, I told them I would cured it. Anyway, said they'd get back to me on it, of which they have, and I'll read out what they've said to me. So I just looked at the 4th Axis on the machine, and I just thought, I know what I'm going to do. Instead of the chuck being on the left, I'm going to flip it 180 degrees and put the chuck on the right. Doesn't make any difference, because the timber that you're doing it on or whatever is set up accordingly. I'll just try that, and lo and behold, it works perfectly. There's no problems. The letters come out as you see on the screen is what you get on your material. So I can't, if you were doing a 3D image, it wouldn't really make any difference if it was on the left, because it would just do the 3D carving. Like the sample piece, the test file that it shows you, it's like a ball with a flat bit on. It doesn't matter whether it's on the left or the right, it would still do that. But when you're talking about handed letters, which I originally got it for, that will not work. So anyway, I got it to work perfectly, and it was only a simple case of putting it. And the good thing about that is, because the chuck's right over at the right, even if I did have the gantry for the Z-axis down lower, it wouldn't hit the tailstock. or the headstock because it's on the right hand side, but it clears the tailstock, so benefits to that. And it, as I say, it didn't make any difference to me. I know there'll be people out there saying, oh, you can do this and do that. I don't know. This is how I've done it. Anyway, lo and behold, I've had a reply back from Sainsmart, and I'll just read it out to you. It goes, hello Anthony, sorry for the late response. After I verified with technical department, the fourth rotary axis should be reversible by setting $3 equals 12. I don't know why I should have to do with it, but anyway. Regarding the software error, this is what amuses me. Regarding the software error, we are working with VCarve to put out an improved post processor, but do not have any better solution for this situation at this time. Thanks for your understanding, and we are very sorry for the inconvenience. In other words, that is the solution that I did. Line 70 revision, delete it. Now I don't know, I'd like to hear from other, my viewers out there that's using the same software as me. I don't know about any other software out there. I only know for Vectrix ones, and the post processor works in both VCarve and Aspire, so that they download, and that's all I've done is deleted line 70 as it said in the error code, revision. Why, I don't know, I'm not an expert on that, but it just goes to show again, like in my other videos, the faults that I've found I've rectified, and they've obviously identified the same fault then, and then supposedly come up with a solution. But when you get such, and it's well constructed as a machine, it's a bit limited in its capability as regards size wise, what the maximum diameter the chuck will take, but what there is on what you can do is, I'll show it in the video. I've 3D printed just a cube, 50mm, and it's I couldn't get it any more accurate. It's 50.01 millimeters. It should be 50, but so it's near as damn it 50mm. And when I'm using the A-axis, fourth axis, I put the block on the table and I zero off with the touch-off probe on top of that. That gives me exactly the centre, because my software that's set up is to work from the centre of the tailstock and the chuck, so it works perfectly. Now I've done that. I actually got that from an idea from somebody else off YouTube that was doing it. He said make yourself a 50mm block. This was for another CNC, it wasn't for this one, but a fourth axis. So I actually use it's pretty simple. First thing I do when I'm setting up for a job, I zero the Z-axis off with a touch-off probe and I put the block on the bed itself, on the table, not on the A-axis bed, but on the table, machine table, and zero off on there, and it gives me exactly the centre line that I want to work from and what I've set up in the software. So, but I'll show you the example when I've done it. I'm doing it on just a bit of brush handle really. That's all I had at the time, and 25mm diameter. And I don't think you could probably at a push get 27-28mm in the jaws of the chuck, which is a bit I understand, because the chuck jaws protrude, and as they're revolving any further out, and they'll hit the table at the bottom, the actual base of the A-axis. So I understand that, but you can actually do bigger diameters. Now obviously from the centre of the chuck or the tailstock, whichever you want to do, down to the bed, I think it works out somewhere in the region of you've 50mm from the bed, from the table itself, the machine table. So you've got the thickness of the A-axis bed, and then you've got a slight risen part, so you're probably going to lose about 8mm off that. So to safely say, you could probably get 40mm, turn a 40mm blank. Now the way to do that is, I haven't done it yet, but where I do it on my my bigger lathe, I attach, if I'm doing a large ball, and I attach a blank that will fit in the chuck to the bottom of the timber that I'm turning. So the blank is turned, it's perfectly, in this case I'd make it same 25mm diameter, and it has to be 25mm diameter and protrude just slightly from the face of the jaws. That's it. That I've got quite a few for the big lathe, and what you actually do is I put some adhesive on the bottom of the item that I'm going to turn, if it's a 40mm square piece, and then, or a round piece, whatever it is, and then I put a piece of A4 paper on, covering that, some adhesive on the unit, and I centralise it as best I can on the back of the base of what I'm turning. Let that harden. Once that's gone off, I put that 25mm in the chuck, and then I can do what they call in VCAV, it's called a rounding toolpath, and then you just set that up as a program and then run it, and it'll take a square object or a round object and take it down to the size that you want, and then you can turn that to what you want then. So it is, and then obviously when you take it out of the chuck, you've got the little 25mm base blank on the bottom, and all I do is put a scraper between it, or a chisel, sharp chisel, and just gently tap it, and it'll separate the layers of the paper, and it comes apart, and it comes apart clean. I do it on some big objects on the lathe, so it works, and so you can turn something slightly larger. I don't know, I mean, I've looked at the actual chuck, and I thought, I wonder whether you could actually take the chuck off the base plate, turn it, flip it, fasten it back in, and then build a riser block on the baseboard, or your table, whatever it is. You've got it fastened, whether it be MDF or like mine, the aluminium T-slot, and lift that up, and then use your as much height as you can. I don't know what you get in, but it would enable you to actually turn something slightly taller. So I don't know, I mean, I'm sure somebody will come up with it. I haven't tried it yet, but if I do, I will certainly do a video on it. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you a video, and it's obviously how we install the post-processing in Aspire, and then then people will know, and I'll show the file of where line 70s I've taken out, and then I hope that, you know, if people are having the same problems, as I said earlier, please let me know, because it really does interest me, and it's a little bit of ammunition for Sainsmart, for me to Sainsmart, because this should have been sorted. You should never kick a piece of software out. I know that it does. You know, there's a lot of other software manufacturers put programs out there and hope that people find faults and then they fix the faults. Well, it isn't the way to do it, not with a post-processor. There's something as simple as that. So right, I'll take you over to the computer, and I'll show you the file. Right, we're over at the computer now. What I'm going to do is I'll show you the I will open Aspire up. It's now, when you open Aspire up, if you go up to File at the top, it'll say Open Application Data Folder. So you'd open that, Right, here we are. Sorry about that. I have two monitors working, it went onto the other screen. So here we have the data application data folder. Yeah, I mean, you can find it, but it actually enables you to do it through Aspire or VCarve Pro. And there is the post processor folder. Okay, so you would literally, that is all the post processors. Now if I scroll down to, well, don't have to scroll down, just press S, it'll take me to Sainsmart wrap Y2A double M, which means it's millimeters. They haven't got one out for inches. Anybody's working in imperial. But now if I open that, this is the file. This is what I actually edited. Now the original file that comes down, line 70 is, let's find it, line 70 is right where my mouse is there. That's line 70 and it's missing. And in there it said revision, just the word revision, in brackets, apostrophes, that's it. That's all it said. And it got the better of me, and I thought, sod this, I'm going to delete it. And all I did was highlight it, delete. Okay, and then when you actually come out of that, it automatically saves it into your as your post processor. Now mine's actually been done. I will show you the file with how it's worded, so you know to identify it. Now you click out of that and you go back out of Aspire, and then once you open Aspire up again, or VCarve Pro, you have to come back out in order for it to be saved. So it's not you can't operate the program as soon as you put it in. You've got to close the program and then open it up again, and it saves it, and then it shows it on your post processors. Right, I'll show you the actual file that I got on the downloads from Sainsmart. See if this is it. Right, yeah, this is the original file. Okay, and as you notice on there, I'll highlight that is the line that I deleted, so which is revision. Now it actually, I shouldn't have had to have done this. Have they pushed it out, this rust or what have you, I don't know, but to put that out without realising that it doesn't install, and I've tried two of my software programs, and it isn't the PC or the software, because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 PCs with the same software on, and it does the same on every blasted one of them. So as soon as I deleted that, you could install the post processor. It would install, but it wouldn't open the software up again. So as I say, that's the way around that one. And I'm a great believer in putting, you know, your own knowledge back on YouTube to aid people to sort problems out. But why hasn't that been sorted out at the start? Why haven't they tested that post processor on the machine with the software? You know, I don't know whether it worked on theirs or what. I don't have no idea whether they tested it, but it certainly didn't seem that way. So right, I'm just going to show you what job I'm going to do in the workshop. Obviously when I take it down there, I'll do it on the machine down there. I'm not going to do the file up here and then do it. So right, I've opened this file up, and what I do is I go into gadgets, wrapping, wrapping job set up, and you'll get a page up like this. And I've already, this is the blank that I'm using is actually 120 mil long, because that's roughly what you can get in the between the tailstock and the actual jaws. Diameter is 25 mil. I'm doing it in millimeters, and it says here wrap round the x-axis, wrap round y. So that means what it's doing is wrapping round. It's using the what would be the y-axis to wrap it round. So as you're looking at your table with the a-axis in front of you, left or right, chuck side, whichever you want to do, it's gonna turn that way or that way, whichever. So it's wrapping y values. Now this is just the start of the job. Now I always use bottom left, but it's everybody's preference. And you can do from the top of your surface, probe it off, but if you've got a blank that's uneven and you might not got your centre correct, that could alter, so it's not accurate enough really. So I always do from the centre, which is cylinder axis. That's why I use the 50mm block that I've got. You'll see it on the downstairs on the machine. I use a 50mm block, and then I zero with the touch probe from the base of the machine. That's the CNC top, not the base of the A-axis. And then obviously once you've set that, you're setting the centre point there. It's a simple cylindrical wrap, that's it. It's not a spiral, it's a cylindrical one, so you won't click that. That goes onto there. Now if you look at what's showing now, this is showing me my length of my timber, 120, and that the depth of the height of that rather is what would be your 25mm diameter unwrapped into a flat piece. So that's what you're seeing. And what I'm going to do for the machine down there is I'm going to do just a text. So I will, on my text, I'll be putting Genmitsu 4th axis, and it's going to be in the set. So apply. It's close that. Right. Now I always work in the centre, roughly in the centre. Now obviously my starting point is the bottom corner down here, not the top, bottom corner or the centre, it's bottom left hand corner. So when you come to zero your X and Y axes, you've already done your Z, which is on the centre line, so it knows the distance that it has to be to the top surface. Does your software program, you have to work that out. And then obviously when you click on that, that is your starting point, but you've got to remember is whatever that distance is there to your first letter is your actual distance that you want to make sure you're starting from your blank. You get used to it once it's pretty easy to set up. So that's the engraving, so to speak, that I'm going to be doing. I might actually apply. So I actually just changed the font, that's all. So easy one for you to see. On me blank, I'll draw a line from the centre of the tailstock where it goes into the timber up to the surface. Just doesn't matter where it is, just straight up to the surface, and then I roughly follow that line down the centre line, down the centre of the timber, or your material that you're using, and then I use that as a reference point. Now I know that this lettering is going to be in the centre of the timber, from top to bottom, unwrapped. I've placed it in the centre. So what I do then is I actually rotate the material so that the line that I've just put in is topmost and centre of the A-axis, so that when I bring the my cutter over, I can bring it across, down, and I can bring it centre right on that line. So I know that when I move the cutter over, it'll be the centre of there. Okay, to where that line is that I've brought up from the centre of the tailstone. So I know I position it on there, but I know when it comes to do the machining, I will zero off at the points where I want it to start. When I start the software running, as I will show you, it will rotate right round and back, and it will start the engraving the opposite face, 180 degrees round from the line that I've drawn. That line that I've drawn will be at the bottom, exactly 180 degrees, and this will be on the back side. It's just how I prefer to work. You can do it in various ways, but just how I prefer to work. And then that will be engraved. And then what we do from here is go across to the toolpath, and I do a V-carve. Now the V-carve is I'm using a let's have a look at the select tool. Yeah, it's a standard engraving bit. I'm not going to change it, it's as it is, and and then once I've done that, I click on the hold it out, and then go down to calculate. Now it's calculated doing the engraving, but you've got to remember this is on a flat piece of timber because it's unwrapped the actual material. And if you go preview all toolpaths, and that's what it's doing. Right, and here we have as blank. This is what your actual material will look like once it's engraved. And as I was pointing out earlier, if you remember, setting from that end, what I did was draw a line up from the centre, and it run right through the centre here. So I know that when I actually set the machine job up, that line will end up 180 degrees round, but exactly central from there. So I know exactly where I'm setting up. It's just the way I do it. But and then obviously once you've done that, you go over here to your save toolpath. You save toolpath, and obviously then what you do is you're saving. There's only one file to save. Select my post processor, and I'm going for the Sainsmart, and there it is. There you are. Save toolpath. That will bring another, and you'll save your toolpath. That is the file then that you will put on the memory card, and then put into your offline controller and work it from there. I'll show you that when I go down to the shop to do this. But as you can see, that is the lettering that I will be doing on the item that I've got the blank downstairs. So we'll go down to the workshop now, and then I'll show you that, and then we'll come back up here to finish off. Here we are at the machine. When I first did the number 4, it was a simple program. the chuck was on the left hand side, and what happened was, and this was mounted, that you can see the little point there, it's only a piece of brush handle again. This was mounted in the chuck on this side, so that one there, the chuck was here, that was mounted like that. So I looked at the design on the program, yep, in the 3D image it looked right, no problem. Set it going, and believe it or not, that is the number 4 that it cut the wrong way around, and that's simply because the chuck on the left hand side goes in the wrong directions for V-carve. Now there are set up things where you can flip it and various other things, but it didn't make any difference. Why? I don't know. Tried looking into the post processor and editing that to see if I can make the chuck go the opposite way, which would cure the problem. So what I did was I mounted this, just switched it round and turned it right, so it's on the right hand side, and believe it or not, that's how it comes out of the chuck. Look at the number 4. I'm going to show you actually doing a number 4. Really clear. There's not a problem with it, and it cuts it in the right direction. It cuts it as it looks on your software program. You'll notice that on here I have a block, 3D printed block, and that is 50mm, and it's 50mm.01 to be precise. It's printed it pretty good. And what I do is, that's marked on, I put that on the top, and then I use the touch off probe underneath it, and then that is set correctly from the point of centre that it pivots down here, because that point of centre is exactly 50mm from this table. So when that touches off, that's set correctly. Now, first thing I do is go over here and we bring it down to touch probe, which is the probe. You press that, you notice it going down. There we are, touched off. Okay, go back to this, and this is where your job set up. That's touched off now. And what this block is here is 25mm diameter brush handle. Okay, so we go back to his controller, go back up to the y-axis, and we want it onto minus. It's set on increments of centimetre, so, and it's on the minus y, which will bring it towards you to this left hand corner. So you press that, press and hold the button in, bring it over to roughly the centre. Now what I do then is I'll set the feed down to next one, which is a millimetre, back onto the y minus, and then inch it over. And I've got a centre line there, as you can see. So that's now in the centre of the piece of timber that I'm going to actually engrave on. Okay, right. Next one I set is the x-axis. So the x-axis, I want this side, so it's minus again. So press that. Now obviously if I press that, it'll only do millimetre slots, so you go back here, you set that to centimetre again, go back to your X, and then there we go. It's about 5mm from the end of the timber. Now, as you can see, there's a line down the centre, and it's actually I have a centre finder, so from that point I draw a line up to the edge, and then that line is continued across the top. It's only faintly. That gives me a reference point. Now obviously I've set it in about 5mm from there, thereabouts roughly, from the edge. But in the software program, you've got to remember is that the software unwraps this. So whatever that is, distance from there right the way around the circumference, you'll get that as a flat surface area within the software. So that software then, I'll have a distance in that you've got letters, and I always work from the centre. I have a centre line on that that drawing, and so the letter will be put central over that. Okay, right, here we are. So we've done as Z, and we've done as Y, and we've done as X. So it's in the position that we want it. So then we're going down to across to start. You click on that and you'll get the other ones. This is where you can, I always zero my X and Y separately, but you can do it joint together. So go up to X, 0. Go down to Y, press it, 0. Then I go to my A axis and then I zero that as well. Then I go down to my file, and this is just a file. I tried different, so it says no flip on flip, but it didn't make a bit of difference, so I'll just pick this one. Okay, and then you'll see the file there is actually loaded. That's your progressing bar, which will tell you percentage that it's completed. You then go down to your where your pause is. For some reason it didn't show a play one here, but and then what I'll do is across here, I'll turn that on. Let's turn the spindle on. Okay, spacer block is simply press on that. Doing the number 4 to that way around. It's 96%. Done. Okay, that's the job complete. Turn the spindle off. Now I'm back on the controller. So obviously we go back out of that and we go to the Y axis, and we want plus this time. So we press the plus and it takes. Keep the button pressed in and that jogs it away. Okay. And then we'll take a closer look at what the the actual letter is or number that it's engraved. Right, this is what, remember the setup line that I did? It's there. Okay, and that's where I zeroed off. Well, obviously when you zero on the drawing, the actual number is in, because it's a flat plane that it shows you, is in the centre. So if you look at that line there, that is number 4 is exactly in the centre, but opposite side to where I zeroed off. Because it is a V carve, it'll lift out the corners, and it's done that really nice and crisp, and it's about probably about a mil and a half deep. And as I've pointed out previous videos, it's quite well made, is this chuck, and that, but it's quite limited. I mean, that's a 25mm brush handle, and the you could probably at a squeeze, I could probably get about a 30, near enough 30mm diameter in, but it's limited to what you can get inside the chuck. In fact, I would think that it probably ran about 45mm, probably a bit less, because you've got, it's 50mm from there to the point of centre, there, 50mm from there to the point of centre, but obviously you've got this and the height of that to knock off that 50mm, so it isn't quite 50mm, but you could get something slightly larger in there. But unfortunately you couldn't grip it with your chuck, so what you'd have to physically do is, whatever blank you're using here, the maximum you can, you would have to glue a piece of 25mm diameter on initially, so that you can grip it with your chuck, but in actual fact the unit is quite bigger, so it's like a false bottom. And you could get a bigger diameter in it, especially if you're doing a rounding toolpath, which is, by rounding toolpath, which is, and the software program does it, is you could put a square piece in there and you could turn it round, and it's just a continuous how you set it up, and it's like turning it on a lathe, so you can end up with a diameter. So you could do that and then take some little bits off if you're doing repetition work to adhere onto the bottom, and I always, if I'm putting a false bottom on to grip it with, I always glue on both surfaces and a piece of white paper, just A4 paper between them, glue it together, so then when you take it off the bottom, the blank, the part that you've had in the chuck just separates off, comes off, and it doesn't damage the grain of the wood at the bottom. That's what I do anyway. Everybody has their own ways to do it, but that's what I do. You could probably get slightly bigger diameter as well, is if you take this off of the plate, the chuck, and mount it on a higher one to give you, and just use the chuck. Or you could match the tailstock up as well and lift it up to give you some more diameter. So, but there again, you're going into the realms of spending a bit more time and probably a little bit more money. Right, this is just another job. This is it's going to put Genmitsu 4th axis on this piece of timber. Let's see how it goes.
S at the end of Mitsu now, and the 0 to do, and then it's done the word. But you notice that it did the number 4 first, and then moved up above, the next line above, and did it, started with the G. Doing the final last trim out, so plunges in and out in the corners. Job done. Can you all see that? Here are in some better light. You can see that? How clear that is. Lovely crisp sharp edges, and you can see on the corners how it's plunged in and out to give you that V-carving effect. So that, and that is the 4th axis. Right, you can see the faint centre line on there, and you can see the centre line from the point at the end. Yep, and it's done that, them 2 lines exactly in the centre of where I wanted it. Right, we're back up from shop now. I hope you found that interesting in the workshop. Right, here is the first blank that I did. So if you can imagine, the actual chuck is where my fingers are, and I engraved a letter 4. Well, as you know, that letter 4 is upside down, wrong way around. So that's when I noticed the chuck needed to go in the opposite direction. And I know they've told me $3 equals 12, change it round, but I shouldn't have to do that. And I tried various things within the software, and you can flip it, but it's flipped then on the screen. You should be able to, as I said earlier, what you see is what you get, and line up. So I just turned the chuck round and put it on the right, and then there we go. You can all see that. So the chuck is opposite end to where my fingers are now, and this is the tailstock end where my fingers are. Now if you look at that, this is just on a bit of brush handle, so there's no breaking out, no nothing, and you can see it's pretty damn clear and precise, and that is what I showed you on the screen to operate. I'm no expert in any of the software programs that I use. Like some of them I've had to learn, and I've had to do it from people on YouTube. But as I was saying earlier, the faults that I've found should have been rectified before it came out, especially software side. So, but it's a well-made A-axis. A little bit limited, but I'm sure there'll be plenty of people out there that will be using it to create wonderful things with, more than what I've done. So that's the conclusion of this video. If anybody is having the same problems as myself with V-carve or Aspire, I don't know how many people can that use it have had the same issue. Please, in the comments, please let me know, because it's interesting for me. And not only that, if this helps you to solve it, if you've not already done the same as what I've done, please still let me know, and then I can notify Sainsmart and let them know that there are issues out there and they need to get the message out to people
and put it on their website. Whether they use my video, they've asked to use my videos on the 4th axis, so whether they will, I don't know. But please like and subscribe. As I've always said, it helps me, and I do answer everybody's comments. If you want to know anything, I will try and help you as best of my ability, my knowledge. So, and I've not missed anybody from the comments, so I always do answer. So until next time, from Tony's Top Tips Workshop, you be careful out there, take care, and bye for now.